Okay, everybody, what's going on? I'll give everybody just a couple seconds to hop in. Let me see. As we kick off something new at the start of the football season. So let me hop on here. Oh, okay. Yep, we're there. What's going on, everybody? This is SJG. Welcome to HBCU Game Day. We got a new series that we're starting off for you, and really excited to get off on the right foot. So it's about D2 HBCU football. So give folks a couple seconds to tune in. But yeah, just wanted to hop on and get you guys appetite whetted for D2 HBCU football. I just came from the MEAC SWAC Challenge. Those guys, they get a lot of shine on TV. They get a lot of time. And a lot of the talk around HBCU football revolves around them, and rightfully slow. They've got a lot of great things going on in the MEAC and SWAC. But, there's the granddaddies, the OGs, the Mac daddies, the Daddy Macs. Y'all probably a little bit too young for that to know the reference there. But I got Kris on with me, so kind of goes. You can just call me. I guess I'll be the dark skinned Kris. He's the one that's still alive, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So this is SJG, and I've got with me D2K Ferg, a guy who knows so much about HBCU football in general, especially at the D2 level, and especially nobody knows the CIAA like him. And so excited to have it on. We started by calling this the two Rams in the bush, but hopefully you won't be seeing my face on this too much longer. We've got some other folks that we are really plugged in on the D2 space, but we wanted to go ahead and introduce this to everybody. So, Kris, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? I could do it, but who could do it better than you?
Yeah, so I'm Kris Ferguson. I am the CIAA's writer for D2 football. I also contribute to pieces from time to time on HBCU Game Day. I've been writing for the CIAA since 2016, so I've had the opportunity to see a lot of different things throughout the conference, see it grow. Sort of been tracking it, for a very long time as a Winston State graduate, and the heyday years, and then seeing other schools being able to the other schools being able to kind of take that torch and so kind of run with it. So it's always a pleasure to be here, and looking forward to what should be a pretty awesome 2023 season.
Yeah, great introduction, Kris. Again, anybody who knows HBCU football, especially the D2 level, they already know who you are. But thank you for being humble enough to introduce yourself to folks who may not know who you are. This is going to be a chance for folks to come talk about the D2 HBCU world, which includes the CIAA, the oldest of the HBCU conferences, and the second oldest by a year, just a little bit younger, a little bit younger, the SIEC. We hope to have a great host for you guys. You may know him, D2 HBCU football. His name is Kendrick. He hopefully will be off the injured list soon, so get well soon to him. And he will be here to give a lot of the SIEC. The SIEC side of things. So we have a good balance here. But let's get right into it, Kris. We at HBCU Game Day, we kicked off in 2023. We started with our FCS poll, and we also decided that we were going to go ahead and do a D2 poll as well. So, Kris, I know you vote on a lot of polls, but we're happy to have you voting on our poll. So let's just kind of go through really quickly and chat and go through the top 10 and go from there, because it's been a second. I had to refresh my memory. So first off, we had Benedict. They were the I'm sorry, look at me messing up our own poll. Number one was Virginia Union. Virginia Union 9-2 last year, and that's a great record. A lot of teams would kill for that record, but kind of seemed a little hollow for Virginia Union. They didn't get a chance to go to the CIAA championship game. They did get a playoff game, and then they kind of wet the bed against Wingate. Kris, did you have them number one? I can't remember if you did. I know
I
I
had them
did.
number one. I did.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot. There's have a lot coming back. I mean, there's some holes for sure, but I mean, when you compare them to probably Benedict, I think they're a little bit stronger of a squad.
Okay. And Benedict is number 2 on our list. They had an undefeated season last year in the SIC. Looked really good. Got number 1 in the Super Region, which, Kris, tell me, is that the first time an HBCU has done that in a minute? Or I know the
Yeah,
WSSU did it in a while back. And I think even those Bowie teams that went unbeaten in the regular season didn't get a number 1. So talk about how big that was.
yeah, it was huge. There was questions about strength of schedule
Mhm.
for Benedict, but a lot of the other schools in the conference sort of beat up on each other, and Delta State kind of getting beat really, really late in the season. The fear was that they were going to be able to stay on top even with a loss, but Benedict having 11 games, which is always a bugaboo for me that the both HBCU conferences at Division II don't play 11 games unless they get to the championship game, and the rest of like the Super Region plays 11-game regular season. So that's huge. It was huge. It was the first time since 2012 that a school HBCU got the top spot, the top seed. Before that, it was Virginia State in 2017 that had a 2 seed. So it was a big deal.
2012, man, that seems so long ago. Nevertheless, well, all right, we'll get there. So number 3 on our list. So we got the 2 champs. So I'm sorry, and that's the thing. That's the thing that I was going to say about this number 3 team. Fayetteville State was the CIAA champion,
Facts.
but I've heard a lot of people kind of refer to it's almost, man, it's almost like folks that haven't given them their respect. Um, they had fought 4 years in a row, got to the CIAA championship game, heartbreaking losses there. Finally, kicked in the door, and waved bye bye to Chawan. The
I knew
HBCU
that was coming.
football gods thanked them for that. It was written that Fayetteville State would be the champs in dramatic fashion. They got it done last year, Kris, but it seems like and they've got multiple guys in the NFL, and every year they're winning the division. But it seems like folks are kind of what's your feeling about Fayetteville State as we look forward, and how they're being perceived around the HBCU world and the regular D2 world.
Well, Fayetteville State across the board just doesn't get the level of respect that they have certainly earned. Some of that I think is just because they play in the CIAA South, which has just been on hard times lately. And I think that's just an understatement of being trying to be gentle here. But it's been pretty rough in the South, and so Fayetteville State been able to run the table since 2017, and get to the championship game. It's just one of those things where you just kind of like, wow, like seriously. Um, but the fact that they broke through and they were able to win a non-conference game that wasn't HBCU last year was a big deal, against Pembroke, and then the championship game was huge, and they continue to solve the riddle of Mark Hall, who was at Chowan and now is at UNC Pembroke to open the season on Thursday or Friday actually, but yeah, I mean they don't get respect because I mean if you think about what happened in the playoffs, it was ugly. And it wasn't that Fayetteville State couldn't like move the ball. It's just they couldn't punch it in against Delta in the playoffs. But still, it's a team that what Coach Hayes has done is just remarkable. It's just the hallmark of consistency, and he's been in the program since what 2017, 2016, somewhere like that.
2016, I
So
think, was his first year. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, and I have a running joke about Fayetteville State because like every year
We do
they
share.
have a new offense coordinator like every year.
Right.
If you think about the fact that like Mo Flowers and John C. Smith was coordinator there 2 non-consecutive years, and there were other folks who were head coaches after they left that offensive coordinator spot. I mean, it's been a breeding ground for head coaches. I mean, Fayetteville State doesn't get the respect that they deserve, but I mean, it's a program that has been very solid over the past few years.
Right, right. Everything you said is true. I would say it's probably got to start with their own fans, though. You know, they've been winning for a while now, and that fan base, I'm just consistently disappointed in every time that I see them. Now they were a little bit better last year. I will give them some credit. There were some more fans, and maybe that's what helped them out. And they're a commuter school. So a lot of they've got a large student population, and a lot of their students are commuters and stuff. But you just wonder, with all the success they've had over the last couple of years, you'd like to see them have a little bit more support on the road. But hey, Fayetteville State again. They got the two-headed quarterback monster that'll be coming back again. So maybe who knows? Maybe things would have been better for them if they didn't play in the CIAA South offensively. You don't have to score every week in the CIAA South. Anyway,
Facts.
We go to number 4. Number 4, we've got Bowie State. Bowie State last year was 6-4. Which for a lot of teams is a sign of progress or really good, but obviously is a step back for them and the dominance that they've had. Got them in number 4. Is that about where you had them, Kris?
I actually have them a little bit lower. So I know this is where some of the Bowie State faithful are probably ready to throw a shoe at me, but the issue I have with Bowie State is that now they've got a lot more to replace than they did last year. Last year they had to replace, a coaching staff and figure out what to do at quarterback and that kind of thing. And because Jerome Johnson, he left, before last season, and it was like, what are you gonna do? Well, DJ Golat stepped in and I thought did a really good job, but he was like a 1-year wonder. He's graduated now.
Right.
So now you've got to start from scratch all over again, and you don't have some of those pieces on defense that you're used to having, like a Joshua Pryor or Raymond Boone in the secondary. So, it's a lot more question marks now for Bowie State than it was a year ago. Nonetheless, when you look at that roster, I mean, it's a pretty good looking roster. And maybe it takes a couple games for things to gel, but I think they're going to be really curious coming into this year. But I think the coaching staff did a really nice job trying to fill in quite a few holes. But the biggest question is, what is this offensive team what are they going to look like on offense? And the one thing I will point out though is that if there's a running kind of joke for Bowie State is their offensive coordinator is always a Bulldog quarterback. So they found another Bulldog quarterback and Matt Goggins to come back to be a first-time offensive coordinator. So they really do groom their own for success. So really, really, really curious to see what he does with that offense, because he tends to churn out some pretty good players at various levels. So I had him a little lower, but if Bowie State comes out on top, I can't really say I'm surprised, because that's just the type of program they are.
Yeah, definitely be interesting to see what's going up there in PG County. The CIAA North is definitely going to be interesting. Number 5, we got Albany State. 2 years ago they were the SIC champs. Last year took a little bit step back as the field maybe got a little bit stronger. They lost their coach. Coach Gardenia, who went to Charleston Southern, but they bring in former FAMU legend, former Jacksonville Jaguars quarterback, former FAMU assistant, former Alcorn State assistant, former Memphis assistant. He finally gets a chance to run the show, and that is Quinn Gray. I think folks are a little bit high on Albany State with all of the changes, but we'll see. We'll soon see when they take on Wingate, right?
Yeah, I think
we'll get into that later. But yeah, it's what do you how do you feel about what are your thoughts on Albany State?
They're too high. That's just too high. It's the programs that are in the SIAC right now, like Benedict, and then you have like Fort Valley. I
Right.
mean, Fort Valley is trending up, in my
Right.
opinion, and
And we're talking about them
you're
soon.
asking a lot out of a first year head coach, for sure, in this situation. So remember that one of the running backs that was really good last year, he transferred, he left, folks. So uh, uh,
Yeah, not the Georgia school that I would have had here.
right,
But we'll see. Coach Gray is, he's a disciple of Billy Joe, who he played for. He's a former quarterback himself. So obviously he's going to pass the ball quite a bit more than they did under Coach Gardenia. So we'll see how that change up in styles works for them. Again, as they out of the gate, they got Wingate out of the gate, and then Valdosta State, I think, next. So yeah, that's a fun two. That's a fun 2 games to get thrown into.
yeah.
The first 2 games of your coaching career at the D2 level. Um, Nevertheless, next up we do have Fort Valley State. Head coach Sean Gibbs took over there last year. One of a lot of new head coaches, and they had a really good season. They went 8-2. They were in the race. They did lose to Benedict, and they also lost to I believe it was Albany State, or it was a Savannah State loss. That's what it was. They
Savannah,
lost to
yeah.
Savannah State. Coach Gibbs, was adamant that they thought they should have gotten a playoff shot. That loss at Savannah State really kind of put the nail in the coffin there. They lost a guy who's in the NFL, right? Emmanuel Wilson. So big shout out to him for doing what he does. But he's not there anymore. But there's one thing we know about Sean Gibbs. He's gonna have some running backs. That's who he was as a player. That's who he's been in his time at North Carolina Central, at Grambling State, and at North Carolina A&T, of course. And now I have no doubts they're going to be able. They may not have another NFL guy, but they'll have some more good running backs. I think we both agree Fort Valley State probably should be higher in this, and they damn sure should have been higher in the SIC rankings, which I thought was, I don't know. Hey, but HBCU preseason rankings, what are you going to do? Tuskegee is 7. Now they are the defending SIC West champions, but they do have a new head coach, Aaron James, a legend in his own right. But he's already been there at his alma mater, so he's kind of taken over for Reginald Ruffin. What are your thoughts on Tuskegee?
That's right. That's about right where they need to be. There's definitely some pieces to replace there as well. But the West, is that what it's called now? The SIC West in the East?
Well, okay,
still?
so this is a great time to say there are no longer divisions in the
Okay.
SIC. There is a pot. It's kind of a potish system. And shout out to our guy Kendrick, who's piping in, and he says too high for Albany State, growing pains. And look, I think it's pretty unanimous, that they're a little bit high. But we say all this today on Wednesday, and then on Friday, if they go beat Wingate, which no HBCU has done since 2012, hey, what do we know? Calvin Cope says Albany can make a big statement with the win at Wingate. Definitely a huge statement. We're getting there as well. Appreciate everybody that's on. Again, we're going through our top 10 right now, but if you haven't already, please make sure, I'm going to take the time for the plug. Please make sure you guys download the HBCU Game Day app. Get it straight here to your phone. You'll get all of the stories that we got going on. You'll also get the schedules and as well as the scores directly to your phone. You don't need to go to social media, Twitter, just straight right here. So with that said, we'll get back to our list here. We are now at number 8. All right, another CIAA team, Virginia State. Last year, Coach Henry Frazier, who did yeoman's work at Bowie State and Prairie View A&M and laid the groundwork for a North Carolina Central run a couple years back, came back into the fold, 6-5 last year. Talented young staff there. Carlos Fields, former Winston-Salem State All-American, former NFL player on the defense there. Got to shout out him. What are your thoughts on VSU?
So VSU, I think last year they were trying to figure out who they were. You kind of had a head coach and Coach Frazier come in, relatively late in the offseason. When Barlow went to what was that, the XFL?
XFL.
Yeah. So they were trying to figure out a lot of things about that team, and for them to have gone 6-4, I think was pretty good. But I think they're going to be better than 6-4 this year. I really think that's they're only going to contribute to a CIAA North that's going to be really, really difficult to navigate. A lot of pieces come back on defense, like Qmon Pope, who's a hard hitting safety, and Willie Drew, who's being looked
Right.
at NFL scouts, and Mikael Pillow Smiley. So on the defensive line, so really,
That's an old school name, man. You don't hear too many Willie Drews
right,
anymore.
right. So, and even on offense, right? I mean, they were kind of like a stable of running backs, and Elton Bailey's coming back at running back, and really, I think it's going to be a bit of a battle between Jordan Davis at quarterback, and they brought in a transfer from Central Connecticut, who's probably going to push him for starting. So, because the other guy that they had, Jabari Blake, it just wasn't working out at quarterback. He's actually moved to tight end now, which is probably a better fit. But I think that just speaks to how competitive it's going at Virginia State, and it's a team that I think flew a little bit under the radar to start. They sort of crashed when Bowie State came to town. We went to that game, and
Right.
it got ugly really quick. So it just shows how far they have to go. But I think that they could probably take a step forward this year.
Right. So then we get to number 9, and this is where we just kind of it just kind of went a little haywire, right? So we got 3 teams that are tied for number 9. We got Bluefield State, new to the CIAA. We got Shaw, old to the CIAA, but they're trying to get back on top. And then there's Lane. Out of those 3, which do you expect to be the best? We'll keep this one short and sweet.
Lane.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let it be said, no CIAA bias there.
No.
I want to say Shaw. I really do. But
They
every
have
year,
potential, though, because Shaw has a lot of guys who have experience on that team now. Shaw just needs to stay healthy. That's really their issue. Last year, they just got banged up early,
right?
and they just never recovered. So if they can stay healthy, then I could see them trying to make some noise. But man, they definitely got a tough schedule out the gate with Benedict and then Virginia Union. Oh gosh.
Yeah. No rest for the weary there. I think I did pick an all maroon CIAA championship game. I don't know. I'm not really a big fan of maroon, but anyway, that's what I picked: Shaw and Virginia Union. So we'll see. And then number 10 we had Savannah State. So that's our top 10. We kind of went through and talked about who we felt might be a little bit high and things like that. So let's go on and we'll also get a look at our best and worst case scenarios for a couple teams. So, Kris, I'm gonna let you get started, man. Give me your best scenario for Virginia Union.
Best case for Virginia Union is going to be every time a CIAA team goes to the playoffs, if they can get back into the playoffs for the second straight year, they tend to make a little bit of noise, and they tend to win a playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think these guys have seen what that's like when they go into the playoffs, what the level of play is like, and take that as lessons. And I think that if they can take that this year, get back to the playoffs, win a CIAA championship, get back to the playoffs, and win a game of the playoffs, that is the best case scenario.
Okay. So, about record-wise, what would you give them?
Oh, I mean, they have the chance to run the table, 11-0.
Okay. All right. So I'll go next. So I'm going to take Benedict. I'm going to stand in for the SIC. Benedict, defending SIAC champions, they could lose to Shaw. They could lose to Shaw. They're at home. They're at home. There's a line, and we'll get to the lines in just a minute. But that could be a loss. Chawan, I would say normally if Hall was still there, but they do have to travel to Chawan, so we'll see. And then let's see, they've got to play Fort Valley. They got to play Savannah State. They do got some tough ones in there. No Tuskegee though. They do have Miles, but they got Fort Valley at home, and they do have to travel to Savannah State. So I'm saying regular season, I think worst they're 7-3. At best, I think they're 9-1. I think they do. I think they do slip up there, but I think so. We're gonna go 7-3 for worst and 9-1 the best is what I'm thinking about Benedict right now. So you got next. What you got for Fayetteville State?
Fayetteville State, the best is probably repeating as champs. The worst is that somehow their luck just seems to run out because there are other teams in the South in particular that sort of push them and they get into some dogfights that the ball bounces the wrong way, and they come crashing back down to earth a little bit, and maybe they end up more of a 7-8 win type of team. But anything less than the CIAA championship appearance is probably not going to be great for people that are going to be used to that. So I think the worst is probably going to be like an 8-2 type of year.
Who are you thinking their losses are going to be to if they get them?
You know what? And I just thought about it. It might be more like a 7-3 now that I think about it, because the worst case is that they lose to UNC Pembroke, Lenore Rhine, and then somebody in the South that just sort of derails their opportunities, like a Shaw or even like a John C. Smith. I'm really curious to see what happens there. Winston always plays them a little tough, but I will have to see how the season goes to see if they have a shot at it too. 7-3, 6-4 would be even worse, but it's certainly possible.
Okay. I hear you. So I'm gonna go next with Fort Valley State, and man, as you can tell, I'm pretty high on Fort Valley State. I think that the worst case scenario, they lose to Tuskegee, they lose to Benedict, and they are 8-2. I think that's the bottom. I think that's the floor for them. I think the best case scenario, I think they go. I'm gonna put the pressure on them. I'm gonna put the pressure on Coach Gibbs. I think they can go undefeated in the regular season. I think they're motivated after last year. Coach Gibbs has a whole nother year to install what he wants over there. And, you look at it, they got the Red Tails Classic over in Montgomery. But, other than that, they've got Savannah State at home. They want some payback there. They got Morehouse. So it doesn't matter where they play Morehouse. They got Morehouse on the schedule. So that's a dub. And then Albany State, the Fountain City Classic. And they got VUL on the schedule. So, yeah, I think at worst they're 8-2, but I think at best they're 10-0. So no pressure for Valley State, but I'm rolling with you guys this year. So show me what you got. All right, Kris, I'm gonna shoot it back to you. Next, give me Virginia State. What's your best scenario for them?
Virginia State, best scenario is, yet again, they win every game except for Virginia Union on their schedule, and that will require an upset against Norfolk State, and maybe that's a bit of far of a reach right now. So
I don't, Norfolk State was really bad last year.
Sure.
Virginia State was good, not great. They did beat. So in the history of that rivalry game, and we can talk about that a little later. Since Norfolk State's gone Division I and gotten more scholarships, they've been able to kind of take control of that rivalry. But the year that they did win in 2017, That's the year. They had a pro player on their team. They had an undefeated season, and Norfolk State was still trying to find itself under Coach Scott. And then there was a couple years they didn't play him when Coach Scott actually had them rolling. So I think if Virginia State is as good as they think we can be, and Norfolk State is as bad as they were last year, both teams have had a lot of roster turnover. I think we could be in for a close game. So we'll see. The Trojans can definitely make a statement by winning their Labor Day Classic on Saturday. So next up, I'll roll next, and I will go with Savannah State. So let's see. For Savannah State, let's see. They had a coaching change last year, late in the season. And still managed to have a pretty solid season. They start off at Southeastern University. Do you know anything about Southeastern? I'm going to defer to you, Kris.
That's the NAIA school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So in Lakeland, Florida. So they're a Florida NAIA school, which means they got some guys on there that's probably some Division I level talent. Oh, then they got Bethune-Cookman. Cookman's been struggling, but I think it's a toss-up. I think if Savannah State is good, I think they can win this game. If Savannah State's iffy, I take Bethune-Cookman. And if Savannah State's bad, I definitely give it to Bethune-Cookman. But other than that, I like a W for them against Clark Atlanta. Albany State game, that's a toss-up to me right now, depending on how that goes. I like them over Edward Waters. They're definitely going to lose to Fort Valley. Well, they didn't last year, so I don't know.
Right.
Central State, long trip up to Wilberforce, but I have them there. They've got Tuskegee at them for homecoming. Pretty bold picking Tuskegee for homecoming, coming off of a good year. But hey, maybe it's one of those things like how some schools in the CIAA do when they know certain teams that have traveling fan bases actually show up and they want to get more tickets. If that's ever happened. But and then Benedict. I think that's going to be a good game, but I still like Benedict and Lane. So I think best case for them, I could see us. I think I could see a 7 and I could see a 7. I could see an 8-2. I think worst case, I think I see 6-4. So.
Oh man, I don't know, man. And Calvin kind of pointed out in the chat because I was looking it up. Like, how bad was it that Savannah beat Southeastern? And if it turns out Southeastern beat Savannah at Savannah, and it wasn't even like by one score. I mean,
Kendrick says 4 and 6. So
right.
Yeah, that. Oh. Hey,
I don't think Bethune-Cookman, I don't think is going to keep it close. It's no. Mm-mm.
Okay. So we got Savannah State, no longer running the triple option, but they are still struggling at the quarterback position, as so are so many schools. Next, Kris, let's go a little bit off the beaten path. Give me Bluefield State. What's their best case? I'm gonna put you on the spot here. What's their best case?
I would say that Bluefield's best case is, the way their schedule is kind of set up, they may have a shot at a 500 season. I know they, off the top of my head, they start the season with Livingstone, and then they've got Lincoln.
Who do you like in that game?
I like Bluefield in that game.
Ooh, you like Bluefield?
Yeah.
To beat the Blue Bears.
Yes.
On their blue field.
That's right. Yep. Yeah, I do. They do have some talent coming back on both sides of the ball. The difference between Livingstone and Bluefield is Bluefield does have some consistency. They have it in the coaching staff. They have it with the players. Livingstone is a churn year after year. I mean, some of the best players. Remember the cornerback went to Kentucky, of all places. Second year in a row, they had a cornerback go to Kentucky. Like,
wow. That was the second year. I missed the other guy. Wow.
Jordan Robinson. He was a cornerback as well. Transferred out. I thought he was going to Appalachian State, but he ended up going to Kentucky, and he's still on the roster there. So, I mean, it's a churn. So now you got Kevin Larkins going. You've got Silas Cruz, who was the best quarterback. He's at Shaw. You had Malik Head, who was a defensive lineman, probably one of the better players, who transferred to Fayetteville State. It's a churn. It's a churn. So I like. It's not that they don't have talent, but I think Bluefield is definitely going to push them and steal one from them.
Man, it's gonna be real interesting in Salisbury in a couple of days, man. So you say they could be 500. What's their worst case?
Their worst case literally is that they don't win a game. I mean that literally, because the fact that they have to go, they're going to be in the CIAA North, and the CIAA North is improving at the bottom end. I mean, Lincoln is probably not the pushover that you're used to seeing. And Elizabeth City, I have a feeling that with that coaching staff, they're trying to reload and try to build that program up a little bit more, and certainly avenge some losses to Bluefield. So that's a revenge game for them. Yeah, I mean, Livingstone could be one of the better shots of getting a win here. So yeah.
Okay. All right. So Bluefield, the new kids on the block. It remains to be seen what they've got going there. Let's see. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm gonna give you one more while I'm pulling mine up. So it pains me to even ask, I'm afraid, but
do it.
What do you think is going to go down there? 601 South Martin Luther King Jr. Drive, man.
Well, there's a couple ways to look at this. We could be optimistic about this.
That hurts. That hurts so much.
I know. Well, let's look at some positives first, right? So Winston State got a new offensive coordinator, and
praise Black Jesus.
And I think that was an upgrade for them. And so now they've got some talent. They've got talent at wide receiver. They got the second year in a row that probably like the best wide receiver from Wingate transfers to Winston State. And so that's a plus. They're going to have some dogs at defensive back. I mean, that's Massey's position in the NFL. So
Fleming,
he coaches that.
Fleming is a good. I like him.
Yeah, and Goulet as well is coming back. He flirted with the transfer portal, but he's back. And running back is one of those things that has always been a strength for Winston State, and I think that's certainly the case this time. The question marks are going to be things like the defensive line. Can they get pressure on folks? Because I mean, they just couldn't pressure anybody last year. And quarterback, and who knows what that's going to look like. I mean, they've got 6 guys in camp right now. So we know that I just don't see them winning the first game. I don't see them winning the second game. They literally could go 0-3, 0-4 to start the season again.
It's been a common refrain the last couple of years.
Yeah. Best case, Winston pulls out a winning season. Worst case, you lose to Johnson C. Smith and you break that streak that they lost last year to Livingstone, which was just are you serious right now? So that's the only thing standing there, and it's a real possibility. The way that Johnson C. Smith's building up that program, it's a real possibility that this happens this year. Remember, JCSU was injured when they rolled into the Winston game last year, and you know what? That may not even be rock bottom. That may not even be rock bottom, because you forgot. Remember last year when they canceled the game against Lincoln. And the weather was fine.
Yeah, that's just emblematic of Winston-Salem State football in this recent era. It's just, yeah, out of an abundance of caution, we're gonna be the only ones to not have this game, and then you know, yeah, I was in Winston. Yeah, but anyway.
Anywho,
Yeah. I thought the Livingstone. I thought the Johnson C. Smith Livingstone streaks were going to end in 2021. Mercifully, they did not. But I mean, good God, they 7 turnovers. And I mean, they just wanted some, I don't know, somebody was tired of Livingstone losing, and they turned the ball over 7 times and still almost, their defense has actually been really good, but it's that offense. I think it has to be better. How many points? I think their OC Chris Barnett is definitely gonna liven things up. Hopefully, if they give him a chance, if they don't handcuff him, they gotta let him free. At some point, they just gotta be. I know they wear red, but at some sort of point, they gotta stop being so conservative.
good one.
So yeah. So how many points? How many points per game do they need to average to get that winning season?
20. They need to get to 20. Well, because I mean, when you look at Winston, when they were winning games like last year, they had to get to 17. The magic number was 17. If they got to 17, the defense was good enough to
and that 17
to get them there.
So far.
Yeah, and 17 was painful to get to. It really was. But in the CIAA, the schools that score more than 3 touchdowns a game are the ones that tend to have winning seasons. So they need to get to 20.
Right. Okay.
You can even miss the extra point. That's fine. You just need to get to 20.
Yes, life in the CIAA South. Appreciate everybody for tuning into this D2 podcast. We are next going to go over to another HBCU program that's done a lot of winning, the winningest program in HBCU football. We are going to go to Tuskegee. All right, so they start off against Fort Valley State. I told you I'm high on Fort Valley. Sorry, Kendrick. Fort Valley State will win this game. The Red Tails Classic is coming to Fort Valley State. That's where the trophy is going to reside. I do think Tuskegee will be a lot better at the end of the season. That's kind of been their trend. Kentucky State, that's a dub. Central State, dub. Lane, but it's at Abbott Stadium, so I'm still going Lane. Then they got one of those D1, D2 games. Kris, and we can talk about this because we got these coming on. I know you're not a fan of these games, right?
No. I'm not the only one either, so that's a good thing. I'm not an outlier here. I get why they have to happen. I get it, but I'm just not a fan.
Yeah, I like it. I like it in general. The certain games. I like the rivalry games. The games at least have some historic semblance, right? So Norfolk State and Virginia State, they just trade people back and forth. So both teams are going to benefit at the gate. The D2 team gets a little step up, at least competition wise, hopefully, and the D1 team gets a chance to kind of, get their wrinkles ironed out. So we got a couple in the CIAA. We'll get back to those in a second, but we got Alabama A&M and Tuskegee. Our guy Connell Maynard, he says he's just showing up so he won't get fined for the FBS games.
Yeah.
Tuskegee, I'm gonna go to first year head coach. I'm gonna say a loss for Tuskegee, but I know they would love nothing more than to beat those guys, for sure. Morehouse, Tuskegee Classic. Morehouse, I'm not expecting a lot of. Edward Waters, they should be better, but I'm still going to give Tuskegee the win there. Savannah State, I'm going with Tuskegee. Clark Atlanta, Tuskegee. I'm going to go with Miles, Tuskegee, and then they got the Turkey Day Classic. So for me, God, what is that? I feel like their floor it's 6 and I feel like their floor is 6-4. I feel like their ceiling could be. I think they could win 9 games again. Oh yeah, and they also play Alabama State. Wait a minute, let me make sure. How do
Mm-hmm.
how does that count? Is that their 11th game? 1, 2, 3. Or do they only have 10
10.
games?
Looks at 10 games. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I don't see them. I don't see them beating Alabama State. But hey, who knows by the end of the year? So
Rivalry games.
I think 6-4 is the floor. I think 8-2 is their ceiling. So I think that's where they are. And let's see if Kendrick has chimed in. He says that they will beat Alabama A&M. Hey, yeah, hey, most of your success in the D1 world has been against that team in Montgomery and not against those guys in Normal. But hey, we don't know what we're getting out of Alabama A&M, and we don't know what we're getting out of Tuskegee yet. Even though Coach James' first year, so
And no
so
roster yet.
that's kind of where we are. Good stuff there. Good stuff there. So next on our list of things to talk about, man. And again, I appreciate everybody for rolling with us. I know there are a lot of things going on. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. So we talk about the D1, D2 matchups a little bit. So we over in the CIAA, we've got 3 matchups. We've got Winston and North Carolina Central. As I've already stated on our pregame show, Winston will win 2 of the 3 battles, just not on the football field. But the cheerleading and the band, definitely Winston all the way. We got the lockdown. I'll put that on anybody. But beyond that, we've also got Norfolk State and we got Norfolk State and Virginia State. We talked about that a little bit. We got Delaware State and Bowie State. Now, we all know 2 years ago this game happened. Delaware State ended up winning this game by 8 points. But I think one of the things that people take away from that, and Bowie State ended up going unbeaten. But I think one of the things people forget about that is that you also that was Bowie State's first game in 2 years, whereas Delaware State did play a couple of games in the 2021 spring season. So they had a little bit more. They got out to a big start, and then Bowie State ended up catching up and just not being able to punch it in. So, but this year, again, new head coach over at Delaware State. So we'll see what's going on with there. Kyle Jackson is in his second year at Bowie State. Do you think they've got the best chance of these 3 CIAA D2 matchups to win Bowie State, or?
I think Virginia State's chances might be a little better,
Okay.
a little bit more known quantity than Bowie is right now. But it's like 1-1, like 1A, 1B here. I mean, because Bowie State's going to come out swinging for sure. I just worry about the playing from behind piece. That concerns me. If they get behind, what does that look like? But I think that just speaks to how much of an unknown Bowie State is right now, more than any disrespect towards the program or the team or Coach Jackson. Now if we want to talk about the third game, then that's a whole other matter.
Okay. We'll definitely get there. And let's talk about this too, and then we'll wrap up with just a quick look ahead, what the score predictions are, whatever. So Albany State is going to kick off against Wingate on Friday now because of Hurricane Idalia. And so that is a big game for several reasons. Again, it's the first game for Quinn Gray, but also Wingate has really just dominated the CIAA and the SIC, their D2 foes. Had a great article on HBCU Game Day the other day from one of our writers, Gerald Wheeler. Make sure you guys check that out. Let's talk about the dominance that they've had. They have not lost to an HBCU since 2012, and the last one to beat them, if you didn't know before, if you read the article, you'll see who the last team to beat them. So we're not going to get it out there. It's not probably one of the teams that you think, but they were the last to beat them. And so Last year they played 4 HBCUs and they were 4-0, and not just any 4 HBCUs. They played the CIAA champions, Fayetteville State. They beat them, and then also they went into the playoffs. A lot of people felt like maybe they shouldn't have gotten a bid to the playoffs. They went to Virginia Union in Richmond. I was there, and that was a tail kicking. And
Exactly.
it was an ass whooping, straight up, and they'll
Yeah.
tell you that that's what it was. And then just beat up on the trenches, and Virginia Union never really recovered. And then they went down to Columbia and they issued another ass whooping. We had the Benedict, the SIC champs, unbeaten, and they just kind of came there and took their lunch money. So Albany State is now blessed with the chance to try to redeem the HBCU nation. Why is Wingate, in your estimation, Kris, such a tough team for the CIAA and SIC teams to beat?
Well, Wingate has really stepped up over the last few years in their football program. I mean, they've always been relatively tough to play, i.e., like Fayetteville State just can't seem to get past them. And they may play them close. They just may be within like 10 points. But Wingate, last year, Wingate's defense was like really, really, really good. Like their defensive line was so strong. And they actually had a punter that got drafted in the NFL. And he really made it tough on other schools' offenses to try to make something out of nothing. So they had a starter that was there for like a quarterback was there for like forever. He's one of those like probably like 3-4 year starters, and then COVID and an extra year, and he finally graduated. But that kind of stability is hard to get. And what was interesting is like Wingate plays like some of these HBCUs, right? And the players get to see what the atmosphere is like and everything. And some of them transfer and they leave and they come to HBCUs, and it's happened in various positions. So at least there's that. But Wingate's just put a lot into their program, and that's just kind of where we are, where it's been really, really difficult to get past them.
Yeah, I remember watching them against Johnson C. Smith in the Blunt years. And I was like, damn, is this a money game? I mean, they were kicking tail. And to that, Johnson C. Smith was another team that's right there, not too far away from them in Charlotte. Let's talk about them for a little bit, because I know a lot of people were looking a little sideways when Johnson C. Smith was picked to finish sixth, I believe, overall in the CIAA, and to finish third in the CIAA South. And they were picked to finish above not one, not two, not three, but 4 teams that they lost to the year before. And HBCU, the coaches are notoriously conservative as far as not really keeping in line with everything. So I'm like, what do they know about Johnson C. Smith that other people don't know? I know our guy Wally has been creating some great stuff, man. If you guys have been on the app, make sure you go check that out brick by brick. I was like, man, I hope they slip Wally some money for this, because this must be some propaganda that they're going with. Johnson C. Smith here, Smith.
Right.
But Kris, I think I've heard you talk a little bit. Tell us why you think that. Make the case for Johnson C. Smith not being where they've been for most of their 120 years of football.
So last year, Johnson C. Smith went 2-7. This is what happened to start the season. So they lost the first game, the Bluefield, by 1. They were winning that game, and they let it slip at the end. And then Allen was a no contest. Like the weather, I think something was bad, and but it was turning out to be a barn burner. Like it was like high scoring affair. Like 27-20 at one point, and it was like still the first half. And then they barely lose to Chowan, who won North by 3 points. And then you're like, man, this really sucks. But then they lose to Lincoln by a single point. So it was just like they were already almost there. despite having like tons of freshmen that were playing for them,
Mhm.
and a quarterback in Tyrell Jackson that transferred in from Fort Valley. So then injuries, and John C. Smith just did not have depth. So the games that they lost after beating, like, just absolutely just running all over Elizabeth City, the games they lost after that were really injury related, I felt like. And so this year, second year, they've gone out. They've really recruited pretty hard. They've brought in some talent that I don't think I've seen at Johnson Smith since I've been covering the CIAA. And you kind of have to wonder, like, wow, what could they actually do if they stay healthy the whole season? You've got people like the two wide receivers, Reggie Bryant, who was their leading receiver, and then Brevin Caldwell came in as a freshman and sort of took over when Bryant got hurt, and is probably one of the better receivers in Division II now. Um, and you've just got, you got a running back stable that's a 1-2 punch. You've got, guys on in they brought back Worthington, the DV coach. He was the DV coach when they had Carlo Thomas, who was like one of the best players that I had the pleasure of covering, in CIAA on defense, um, and as a defensive back, and so they've got guys that can defend and not allow um, uh, 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 other teams to like just pass on them at will. So it's like they're putting the pieces in place. It's a matter of, can they stay healthy, and is that offensive line ready to toe the load? Because last season, the reason to me why Tyrell Jackson got hurt, man, I mean, they were Swiss cheese. They were just getting ran over, and the dude was just taking one shot after another.
Yeah, I went to I went to their practice and yeah, I lost my keys there too. That's a whole other story. If you know me, that sort
You're
of
always
thing. So
losing something.
exactly. But I went up hot, man, hot. But anyway, I was like, I just noticed they were very small last year,
Right.
just height wise and just so hope so But one of the things I talked to our coach about at the CIAA Media Day was that he says they have a full allotment of scholarships. So. That's huge. Fayetteville State has been doing that recently since they've had the success that with Coach Hayes, but so few HBCUs have that. So I think that's a huge deal. You take that also with their location. Um, with their location in Charlotte, you would think there would be a little bit more of a draw. I mean, if and I wrote the story about him. You guys check it out on HBCUGameDay.com. I called him a sleeping giant because if they ever really got rolling and they just they kind of just have this stigma like they're Johnson C. Smith, right? I mean, but once they get rolling and they can change that, I think that the sky's the limit for that program. And I think some other programs should probably be very worried about that. But nevertheless, Johnson C. Smith, a lot of people think, a lot of them, so they will be a team coming in to watch. They're going to get some confidence. I think they've got some winnable games early on. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens with them if they can keep Jackson upright. So, and then St. Aug, again, another, because we had this conversation a little bit. All right, is the CIAA South, are they going to be any better this year overall as a unit? Do you expect it to not, is the gulf still going to be this high between the CIAA South and the CIAA North? He's thinking. He's thinking.
Yes, it is. But here's the, but
At least you made it. At least you made it act like it was a thought, because I was like, that's a,
but no, but really, I think it's more so. It's not that they won't improve. I just think that the CIAA North is going to be better this year at the same time, and so
even though you
uh,
think Bowie might take a step back.
Yeah, because it's going to be Bowie or Virginia State taking like that next step towards being like really good. So I just think that it's going to be. I think it's going to be better um, than they were. Than as a division, I think the CIAA North is going to be better than it was last year, and that's scary to think about. It got you on mute. Got you on mute.
This self-producing thing. I've been doing pretty.
Technology, man. It's all good.
I've been pretty good with that. But yeah, that's a scary thought that the CIAA North is going to get better. The South. Yeah, the South, and then I don't know. What do you think? I'll toss this out, and then we'll finish up with the predictions. What do you think about the CIAA potentially getting rid of divisions like the SIAC and the best two win? What do you think about that? Because I know, folks definitely don't like things that they definitely don't like. They want to keep it simple. Otherwise, I can't even say that because otherwise we probably would have Bowie State in the CIAA West instead of the CIAA North, because if you look at them on the map, they're a lot closer to most of the CIAA South than they are the CIAA North. But hey, who
You
wants to
mean
go through all
Bluefield?
Bluefield State, right?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Okay,
Because that trip to them for Elizabeth City and Bowie, those are a lot longer than the
yeah,
trips right down the road to Livingstone, Smith, and Winston.
right.
Um, so quite a bit of intrigue there, as far as how that goes. But what would you think about the CIAA changing it up?
I don't think it's a bad idea, especially given that now the conference has an 8 game in conference schedule. Um, that maybe that increases travel a little bit for like a Lincoln or a Bowie State, but for competitive reasons, you kind of have like the North is just beating up on each other, and a lot of times the North may have even the best two teams. So it's one of those things where why not do it that way? Uh, yeah, I say why not? Why not do it that way?
Yeah, we're all for a little chaos over here, but obviously the presidents and chancellors like to keep it a little bit. And also, we'll talk about media really quickly too as we're pulling up the schedules. The SIC has extended they're staying with ESPN, but they also picked up HBCU Go. And the CIAA was supposed to do HBCU Go, but if you saw my report a couple weeks ago, the HBCU Go and the CIAA is a no-go at this point. But everybody's going to be streaming still, and but it's going to be free. Kris, I know you're a guy who likes to have like 8 screens open and everything like that. How do you feel about the CIAA not doing HBCU Go and also the streaming being free?
Well, last year I think they tried something different because in the Division 2 landscape, that's where it's been going. It's been
Right.
going to pay per view, and the top conferences you have to pay to see those games. And some of them have like media rights with Flow Sports, which gets a lot of criticism, but nonetheless, it's there.
Rightfully so. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know,
Hell to the no.
and I'm just going to be brutally honest here. Some of the streams are just not worth paying for. The quality has not been good,
I don't
and
think that's a secret.
okay, cool. Okay, cool. So
I'm
the
sorry. Go
problem is that when you have those situations where the product hasn't been good, you know, why would you pay for that? I think it's a good move. The CIAA, you want to get more eyes on the product, and in order to do that in the Division 2 landscape, it's better to lower those barriers. And going back to free is great, and it's also great because I can watch as many games as I like, and my heart is full. So I think it's a good move on part.
All right. So let's finish off with a quick look forward to week one. So the FCS Sportsbook has rolled out their they've rolled out their lines on HBCU games. So we're gonna go through the D2 games really quick, and you tell me what you think. They've got Wingate as a 7-point favorite over Albany State.
Too low. Too low.
Ooh, okay. What do you think? What do you think? What would the Kris line be? What would the K Ferg line be?
14.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see. Then we've got Clarion. So Lincoln, PA is a 3.5-point favorite over Clarion. What's the K Ferg line on that?
I would love to believe that. I love rooting for Lincoln. I always try to get them some press some way
Now that
somehow.
Chawan's not in the league anymore, you got to have your favorite, your pet favorite. So man, you love you some
No,
Chawan.
no, no, no. I think it was just fun to kind of poke at other people too because everybody did not like
Shout out to
Shawan.
the VSU voice man and his forever famous.
Oh yes, yes. That has to be posted again this year just for fun because that was
Yeah,
just great.
yeah.
But okay, Clarion and Lincoln. I'm gonna go Clarion plus 10
Okay. Well, the over under is
or minus
49
10 rather.
points.
49.
49.
Wow.
So Clark Atlanta. So Kentucky State. Kentucky State is a 19-point favorite over Clark Atlanta. And let me know if Kendrick has chimed in. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
19-point favorite over Clark Atlanta. And the over under is 51. 19. Man, and Clark Atlanta and Kentucky State has a brand new coach who's never been a head coach before. Damn, that lets you know what they think about Clark Atlanta.
I think it's more that. I mean, even though Clark has a legend at
Right.
at head coach, yeah, I think it's more of that than anything. That seems high.
Okay. Fayetteville State and UNC Pembroke. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Fayetteville State is a 3-point. So Fayetteville State's a 3-point overdog. And the over under is 47.5. What do you think about that?
That's too many points for that type of game.
Yeah.
But I do like the plus the minus 3 for Fayetteville. That's about right for that rivalry.
Okay. We got Lincoln, Missouri, and I know we didn't talk about a lot about them, but they are a 35.5 dog to Emporia State.
Oh gosh. All right, this is going to be brutal. So let's talk about some good stuff first. So Lincoln, Missouri actually left the MIAA,
Mm-hmm.
the other IAA,
Mm-hmm.
and they went to the GLVC, the Great Lakes Valley Conference,
Mm-hmm.
which is a better fit for them overall. They weren't winning anything in the MIAA, which is arguably one of the best conferences in Division II. And so it's a good fit, but now you're playing an MIAA opponent like you never left again. So 35 points, no, that's too low. I'm sorry. Emporia State's got way too much coming back, and I only know that because of fantasy football and talking about them in the top 25 for all of D2 last weekend. It's going to get ugly, and it's going to be bad.
Hold
I'm
on,
sorry.
Blue Tigers.
I'm
Hold on to
sorry.
your tails. We've got next up. We've got VUL at Carson Newman, and VUL is a 27.5 dog.
Too little, bigger. I mean, like I don't. When was the last time VUL didn't have that large of a gap in margin? I don't know.
Yeah, well, I know that they've expanded. They're playing a lot more non-HBCUs the last couple of years. They're going, they're hitting that Sam Washington meme quite a bit. So, Morehead State is a 5-point favorite over West Virginia State out of the Mountain East.
Wow. I mean, West Virginia State, yeah, they're a pretty good squad. but Moorhead's FCS. That's a lot about Moorhead, for sure. Maybe a little bit more of a margin, but the results probably gonna be the same.
Okay. The Battle of the Blues in the Berry. So it appears that Bluefield State is a 0.5 favorite.
It's not that close.
So how are you even a 0.5? I don't
They're just about to
a
tie the game.
safety. Yeah, so I guess they're predicting a tie. Yeah, basically. They're predicting a tie between the Blue Bears and Bluefield on the blue field. So I think that's gonna be one of the games I'm really gonna be interested to see. This I think I don't know, man. I think I'm really excited to see that for some reason. Just chaos bomb. We've got Bowie State. Bowie State, hold on to your seat, Kris. Bowie State is a +1 is a 1 point favorite. Is a 1 favorite over Delaware State.
I
Somebody
think,
believes
yeah,
in the Bulldogs.
yeah. I am not one of them, but yes.
Okay. Also down the road from Bluefield State and no, wait a minute. This is so Catawba is at Elizabeth City State. Okay.
Yep.
I see you working. James DeBose. Yeah. So, but even though Elizabeth City State is at home, they are a 16-point dog to the. I don't even know if they still call themselves that name. I'm not gonna call them that. Catawba. They're a
Yeah.
16-point dog to Catawba.
Yeah. New head coach at Catawba, who came from Shepherd, really knows offense. So I expect, big things out of Tyler Haynes over at Catawba, which is unfortunate for us. The one thing is last year their head coach was more of a defensive guy. So
Mm-hmm.
probably some growing pains to have in at Catawba. I'm hoping for some improvement at Elizabeth City. But yeah, 16 points. I could live with that.
They got 50 over under is 54 points. Um, so Allen is a 0.5 favorite over Erskine. For whatever that's
Oh, that's interesting. And
yeah.
I actually like Allen in this game. I actually like. I mean, they do have, was it David Wright and Bo Harrington coming back. And so that's a lot of offense. They're a fun team to watch. And Erskine was not good. And they had a lot of players transfer out at the same time. So I actually like Allen in this game.
Okay. All right. The Fighting Blue Jackets, Yellow Jackets. Let's see. We got Edward Waters as a 15.5 point favorite over Florida Memorial. Sound right to you?
Didn't they lose to Florida Memorial last year?
A lot of people are high on Edward Waters, though. I think a lot of people think they're up and coming. Uh,
Not that
I
last
do.
year has anything to do with it, but
Yeah,
I mean,
I think they did give up a lot of points last year, but yeah, I do think that game has gone down to the wire.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
speaking of Johnson C. Smith, they are a 3.5 favorites over West Virginia Wesleyan.
Yes, this is a game to watch, to see where John C. Smith goes. Wesleyan was
Yeah,
like
we want to see
one.
what the hype's about.
Yeah. Wesleyan.
Is it really that hot in the QC, or are they just vibing off Wally Diddy's videos?
Somebody was watching. That's good. That's good for the site.
Yeah.
Um, but really, I think that this game's actually going to be very offensive minded, because
Mm-hmm.
Wesleyan, they are a pass happy team. They went like 1-10 last year, but against teams that they were more evenly matched with, those are very competitive games. So I'm really curious to see how John C. Smith comes out on offense, and I think that I think it's going to be a fun game to watch, honestly.
All right. So next up, we've got Lane as a 4 point favorite over Miles. What do you think about that?
Ah, interesting. I mean, I like it. I think it's I think it's, yeah. I think that's about right.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see. So then we've got Central State. They're taking on Mississippi Valley. They are 29-point dog to the Delta Devils. That sound right to you?
I'm actually going to say that might be a little high, but
I yeah.
that's just my thought. I think that might be a little high. I think that just might be the struggle bus type of game for Valley. They might be sleeping on Central State a little bit more. And it looks like the comments kind of agree with me too. So it might be a low scoring affair, but I don't think Central State will beat them. But
Yeah, yeah. I see we got some folks in the chat popping in. So I see we had Owen Lawson says Bowie is going down. I know he's a MEAC guy, so he's not gonna give the CIAA team any love. Well, A&T's not in the MEAC anymore, but hey, they keep hanging around. Those Aggies, you can't get rid of them, can you?
oh man,
He's also got Lane all day, and he said Valley won't score 29. Okay,
yeah.
so let's see. We will then move over to a couple other games. So our Savannah State Southeastern. Savannah State is a 1-point favorite over Southeastern. So toss-up game there.
Yeah, that's true. But no, I'm not feeling Savannah in that game again on the road.
Gotcha. And then, okay, hold on to something. We've got Shaw at Benedict. Benedict is a 21-point favorite. 21 points. What do you think? What say you, Kris?
21 seems
Can they
kind
do
of
something
high.
for you?
21 seems, no, right? Man, 21 seems high. Shaw's got some things that I want to see what they're going to do on offense. I know Sidney Gibbs is coming back at running back, which I'm really excited to see him in his senior year. But Benedict they have a transfer in from Shorter, who was a starter at Shorter, and he did reasonably well there in the Gulf South. So I think that's who's going to start. And so maybe 21 doesn't seem too far off, but not any higher than that.
I don't know how you feel. And I'm curious how you feel about this. All the transfer portal now, all the transfers are out there, and of course they're good players anywhere. I mean, Kentucky got somebody from Livingstone, but how do you feel when you're getting quarterbacks from out of all the Power Fives, the G5s, and the FCS? You're going to get a guy that came from another D2 school that probably didn't light it up. How do you feel about that? I'm just curious. When I hear that, every once in a while you get a guy who just, was good. But I think what Trent Cannon came from another D2 school.
Yep.
I'm just curious what you think about that.
I always look to see what class that individual is in, because the one thing that I kind of notice about Division II transfers to another Division II is sometimes they're graduate students, and the school that they're at doesn't really have the right graduate program. That's the reason that they leave, more so than they're leaving because they don't really want to play at that school anymore. And I wonder if maybe that's what happened with Dennis. That's the reason why he's going to looking somewhere else. That's Iena's Dennis. But I always look at things like that. So when I see like a graduate coming in, like I think Romello Williams at Virginia State's a good example of that. Jabori Gibbs, that's at Virginia Union, who used to be at like South Dakota State. Those guys coming in who are graduate students at quarterback, I really look at them like, okay, they could really probably like push these guys or even like start. So it's a little different if it was like Bowie State had a quarterback come in, Division II to Division II. He didn't stick. He went back in the transfer portal. So, that one, you kind of look at it like, interesting. But when they don't work out, you're not really surprised. So,
Gotcha. Okay, so next up, Let's see. We've got St. Aug at Lenore Ryan. What do you think this? If you haven't looked, what do you think this line is?
I hadn't studied it. It's got to be like minus plus 42 for St. Aug.
You are not far off. So yes, Lenore Ryan is a 40-point favorite
Yeah.
against St. Aug. Again, new coach Fagan's there. They say they've got 30 scholarships and they're working to get the other 6. So that's something to look out for.
30 scholarships
That's what
at St.
they
Aug.
told. That's what Coach Vegas told me. If I'm lying, I'm flying now. That's what we're gonna go on the Scouts honor, 30 scholarships. So I don't know, man. CIAA South, people say they're putting money in their programs, but we'll see. The proof will be in the pudding pretty soon. So we've got Winston-Salem State heading down the road to venerable O'Kelly Riddick Stadium, home of those guys in maroon, the defending HBCU national champions. And I hate maroon. I must say that every time. I hate maroon. I think it's a horrible color. I think too many HBCUs have it. Why does everybody love maroon? I'm glad that Winston-Salem State wears red. Anyway, there's that. I'm sorry. I hate maroon. But anyway, beyond that, WSSU was a 34.5 underdog. I let them know that. Yeah, I let them know this at the media day. I don't think they were too happy, but about that. That was my one question. I was like, everybody's like, "Are you gonna ask?" I was like, "Yeah, you guys 35-point underdogs. What do you think?" But no, they felt confident. But again, if you look back in 2021, I remember when we came into this game, I was like, if they lose by less than 3 scores, I feel encouraged. And then they almost won that game. Of course, North Carolina Central a little banged up. Trey Oliver, did enough to get the win, and his mentor Robert Massey managed to get the job. So they got that, and then last year it was a 41-0 beatdown of the WSSU team. They did kind of hold Davius Richard in check a little bit, but it was a reigning game too. And I asked Coach Oliver, I said, "Hey, Coach, he talked about how sometimes they pulled him out of games and that kind of hurt his stats a little bit in national awards." I was like, "So, Coach, you're not gonna keep him in the Winston game. It's early. You don't really want to." You don't need him against them. He's like, "Nah, man, we're keeping him in. We're gonna be throwing the ball to the last second." You know what I mean? I'm like, thank you, Coach. But anyway, 34.5-point underdog. What do you think?
I think that's about right, actually. I think Winston last year had a lot of growing pains, and they were just
being the operative word.
Yeah. And they were just way too dependent on the run. And so I think Winston might be a little better than they were last year, based on what's kind of out there on them. And if they're better, then 34 points is better than last year. So, yeah. Oh man, I mean, listen, I can't hang around you because neither you or I will be able to go to any Winston games by the end of the season if things don't turn out right.
You already man. You already know how it is, man. Look, at this point, it just is what it is. No, I think they're gonna beat. I don't want to get them beat worse than that. I think they're gonna beat the spread. I think they're gonna beat the spread. I think 20. I don't know if 24.5 is a possibility. I think I think 24.5. I think they'll so I'm gonna give them. I'm gonna go a little bit optimistic, but we'll go with that, and we'll and Kendrick and I can't see the chat right now, so let me see. Yeah, Kendrick, you'll have to let me know if you can tap in. So we've got Tuskegee, Fort Valley State. Fort Valley State is an 8.5 favorite. So Vegas or whoever does the FCS lines, Boise, whoever does the sub D1 lines, they like Fort Valley by 8.5 points. You feel like that's reasonable?
14.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's gonna be 2 touchdowns.
And finally, we'll wrap up with the CIAA SIAC matchup. And I know my guy Owen Lawson, and I do want to apologize. He was actually saying that Bowie was going to beat Dell State, so I want to make sure that I don't misrepresent that. He is a Morehouse man, I believe, as well. And Morehouse taking on number 1 Virginia Union is a 23.5 underdog. Do you think it'll be that low?
No, it's gonna be higher.
Oh man, yeah. I think that's wishful thinking. I think Jada Byers is going to score. I think Jada Byers is going to score 38 on his own.
Right. Yeah. It's not gonna be pretty. You know, Morehouse again would struggle like one game. They won one game last year. And they're just trying to figure things out right now. So Virginia Union, I think it's going to be real interesting to see what happens at quarterback, who runs the offense, and if so, then we'll kind of know how far Coach Parker wants to press down the accelerator pedal. So,
I mean, they
you
are
know,
on national. They are on national TV. So you definitely.
yeah, yeah.
And
I was going to say
and
that.
also only 4th in voting for Jada Byers in the Harlan Hill with
Unacceptable.
Almost 2,000 yards. So I don't know why not press the pedal to the metal.
Yeah, I think it's only 2 games on Sunday, and they're both HBCU games, so it's a big showcase game, and it's good for recruiting. It's good for a lot of things. Yeah, Virginia Union, they got to score more than 20. They got to beat that. I mean, they got to do better than that.
Yeah. The over under is 50 points. I think last year what they start off with VUL, what was it like? They scored like 79 points or something like that. 80 points.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They got their work cut out for them over at Morehouse. But if you're playing D2 fantasy football, which Chris, I know you do.
Yep.
You play there's no way you don't play Jada Byers, especially this week.
Yeah, so I got like the short end of that stick in fantasy where I didn't even get the first. I had to pick last in the first round. The number 1 pick in fantasy football for Division II this year was Jada Byers, and with good reason. So I mean, look, it's not gonna be pretty. It's just not gonna be pretty at all.
As a gentleman from Atlanta once said, they know. They know. So with that, man, we've gone for almost an hour and a half, man, and this has been so much fun. The first edition of D2 HBCU Football Matters with Kris Ferguson. I'm SJG. Hopefully we'll continue this going. If you guys like it, please make sure that you share this out. We'll post some clips, and then we'll try to come back and keep this thing going. Kris, I appreciate you for hopping on. This was a lot of fun. I think we got a lot of good things to spread out, and we'll see. Where are you planning on being this weekend?
I'm at home this weekend.
Okay.
I'm gonna be watching from afar. I've got some schoolwork I need to get done.
In those books, like a Morehouse man.
Yeah. I'll be watching from afar this time. I'm looking to do some traveling next weekend, though.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I guess I'm gonna go over to Durham, see what's
I'm sorry.
see the WSSU powerhouse,
The band.
do their thing, see the Red Sea of Sound, get ready for what they got going on. See WSSU win 3 of the 4 battles because it's attendance as well. But that football thing, we'll see. for Kris, let everybody know where they can find your work, and of course, guys, make sure you follow him at D2K Ferg, and yeah, let them know.
So I'm actually finishing up my season opening column right now for D2 football. Hoping to get that posted tonight on d2football.com. Also, you can follow me down here at the handle at D2KFerg on Instagram and Twitter. Um, you'll find lots of things that I do. I try to keep up with multiple games, and I also post a fun recap, one word recap or emoji recap
Highly
after the game.
anticipated.
Yep. So if you can't watch the games or whatever, you can at least catch that recap. But it's always a fun time. I love interacting with people on there. So you can find me there and reach out anytime. You're on mute again.
So appreciate that, Kris. So once again, he is Kris Ferguson. I am SJG, Stephen J. Gaither. You can find me on Twitter at Stephen J. Gaither. But of course, make sure you guys are following at HBCU Game Day for all of our content. We'll have folks a lot of different places this weekend as always. So appreciate you guys. And until the next time, remember that D2 HBCU football matters.